Hello beautiful people, my name is Carrie, and today I'm going to bring you a reading about using your creative power to navigate life and the personal evolution that comes through this. Speaking today, we have Tom the Poet. Tom the Poet understands clearly both the more beautiful and the more difficult parts of life, but the way he approaches and the way he navigates these particular, the ups and downs of life can definitely be an example for us in our own evolutionary process. So, starting out, we have the Two of Swords. Now, today, most people tend to interpret the Two of Swords as a you shall not pass type of a card. But if you look back more historically, the Two of Swords actually was quite the opposite. This was the I'm not blocking your way. So the symbolism of two crossed swords was actually more along the lines of I do not have my sword pointed out at you. I am not on guard. I am not here to stop you. You may pass, right? The woman in the Two of Swords here, she's got the blindfold on, in the same way that we say, like, the justice is blind. In this case, what I'm getting here is it's not necessarily a justice type of a deal, but that blindness, because the woman in this card, she has been through enough of life, experienced both positives and negatives, enough that she's not going to judge you for your ups and downs along your path. So she's got the swords crossed. She understands. She knows the path, but she's not judging you, right? Okay. Now, considering if she's saying you may pass, what are we looking at here? We have this rocky coastline behind her. And when you might be starting out on a creative project or, something new in your life, you're probably going to have to take it a little bit slow as you're working your way out to sea, right? As you're working your way out, you have these rocks, you have the different things that you need to navigate, like, difficulties, challenges, and so forth. So you want to take your time so that way you can gently move between them, and eventually you do reach a point where you are no longer having to, be quite as slow. You're out to sea, you can unfold the sails and just get really moving, right? That is the energy of the Fool. Now, moving out into this, new venture, into, new possibilities, you don't know what's coming, You're joyful, you have, everything is beautiful, everything is new. It's this very much spring energy. The butterflies, the Fool here playing on the flute, they have their pack. They, maybe they've brought certain knowledge or skills or, perhaps even baggage, with them. His little dog here, trying to get his attention, to say, hey, you're about to step over this cliff, right? Now, So the thing about the Fool in this case, it's not necessarily a bad thing that they're about to step over the cliff. And we're not talking about like a dangerous, kind of going out into the unknown in the literal sense. It's just you don't know what is ahead of you. You don't understand that the highs and the lows that are coming. So that jumping over the cliff is that kind of that leap of faith, right? Alright, so you've decided to take on a creative venture, and where do you go from here? You start out with a little bit of inspiration. So we have the Page of Cups. This young lady, she gazes admirably upon this little bird, right? I want you to pay attention to this theme of birds and wings, particularly in this reading, okay? So she sees this little bird. She's got this chalice. the little bird coming out of the chalice, she has created something for the first time, and she gets this vision, of possibilities. What could this all lead to? Right? And then we have the Ten of Cups. Now I'm seeing that same little bird that came out of her chalice up here. And, we got this vision of this happy family, this loving home, all these beautiful possibilities, right? You have this vision, you want to share it with people, you want to share it with the world, you have so much joy, okay? So you've gotten this first inspiration, aha, I know I want something, I have this vision, so we go ahead to the Eight of Pentacles. The Eight of Pentacles here is, now that we've gotten this creative vision, we've got a little bit of a taste for it, we decide to crack down, we decide to really study, practice, practice, practice. You see this little castle in the background here, and these clouds here also give me this imagery of a castle, right? So this young boy, he's perfecting his craft, he's practicing, but he's dreaming. He's dreaming about, possibilities, castles in the sky, what am I going to do with these skills? What adventures am I going to go on? What experiences am I going to have? Okay? Given enough practice, honing your skills, we move on to the Empress. Now, the Empress, she has mastered her creativity. She has mastered her abilities, her art, her talents. She can create new life. She's got she's pregnant. She's weaving on this wheel. And this wheel, if my camera could show it better, has the zodiac signs, right? So you practice, you develop these skills, and with enough practice of your skills, your art, whatever, that you're developing, you come to realize that you have the ability to consciously control the various different elements of your life, right? You might have your emotions, your energies, your thoughts, whatever the case being. As life turns, as you're going through the different cycles of the seasons, this skill that you have taken the time to practice, this art, that you have taken the time to practice, has given you the ability to navigate your life, okay? To weave, to create the life that you want, okay? Along the journey, you have all your beautiful high experiences, but you might also have some difficult experiences, where we come to the King of Swords. Now, the thing about the King of Swords, though, is if you might think it kind of looks a little bit of a kind of gloomy, little bit of a darker atmosphere, looks like a storm brewing in the background, it's kind of gray, you can see the grass being blown by the wind. The King of Swords himself, though, his tunic, is still this bright blue sky. It's still the clouds. He has these birds. The various points in life. That who he communicates with, who gives him messages. On his helmet here, we have these wings, which it gives me the impression of raven wings, but the way they're positioned to me is like ears or antennas. So with enough practice of his art, with enough practice of whatever he's particularly skilled and talented in, now he has the ability to receive insight, to receive messages, to understand things around him. Okay, he's clear, he's focused, he's knowledgeable. If you want to take a look at his cape, here's the thing about that is, when we look at this starry sky on his cape, it gives this impression of a knowledge, of like a bigger understanding of things. So, you have that darkness, yes, there are difficulties in life, but then it's filled filled with all the stars. So knowing that there is no darkness that is completely empty, right? Or that emptiness, apparent emptiness, has everything within it. So he knows how to navigate, difficulties in life. He knows how to handle whenever things are not difficult. How does he handle that? Three of Swords, Ace of Cups. The trick here is, instead of running from the things you fear, instead of running from the things that hurt, integrate them. Integrate them into your heart. Okay? The heart is the space from which your wings unfold. If you think of the imagery of an angel, if you think of the imagery of a fairy, where are the wings? Right? Kind of about level with your heart chakra. Right here. Okay? So when you understand that pain isn't something to run from, pain isn't something that is necessarily bad, but just a fact of life. When you have that clarity, then you have the ability to balance both the positive and negatives in life. It's a dynamic balance, right? So the yin and yang here, that the darkness within the light within the darkness, and the wings, right? There's this, when you have this blending of the reality of life, this is when your heart begins to unfold. This is when the energy from your heart begins to expand. You can feel more love because you have the ability to include, whether situations or others, without necessarily saying like, hey, this isn't allowed or this is allowed. Now clearly there are definitely things in life that we definitely should not do, and then there are things in life that are very much beneficial, but it's kind of going back to this whole Two of Swords, where she's blindfolded because she knows the ups and downs well enough in herself and within others to realize that you're all gonna make mistakes. We are all going to do things that we regret, but we're also gonna all do things that we're very happy about. Okay. The Chariot here. Now the driver of the Chariot, he's playing on this lute. He's this harp. Sorry, not a lute. He's playing on this harp. He's singing. So he's not balancing the positive and negatives of life through force, right? It's creative, it's inspired, he sings, he maybe has words that he speaks, that direct, his life. A challenge comes up, the way that he speaks to himself and the way that he speaks about his life directs things, right? And when we get to this synergy, like I said, that's really where your wings unfold, right? You have the lion, and you have the snakes, the Leo, or the strength kind of energy here. Can you see it? The caduceus ones on her dress, but the wings didn't come from either of them. This is this energy, right? You have the base energies, that snake, starting at the root chakra and working their way up, and you have the higher wisdom, the gentleness, the courage, the strength, that royalty, and when they meet, that unfolding of the heart, your wings, your ability to fly, your ability to navigate life. Hopefully this provided you a little bit of insight on, how you can try to approach, challenges in your life, how you can approach beautiful experiences in your life. If anything in this reading resonated with you, I would absolutely love it if you would comment, and go ahead and like this video. If you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and subscribe and hit that bell icon, so you can hit for, to get notifications whenever I release any new videos, and I'll see you next time.